the integrated weed management specialist here and based out of Prineville.
Thank you, Dan. Carrie Perosco.
Good afternoon, Carrie Perosco, based out of Southwest Oregon, Grants Pass today, and I am the noxious weed specialist for the Southwest corner.
Thank you, Carrie. Beth Myers-Shanai.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Beth Myers-Shanai. I am the noxious weed specialist for Northwest Oregon, and I do outreach and education and support all of our mapping projects.
Thank you, Beth. Grant Jackson.
Hello, my name is Grant Jackson, Central West Region, which is mid-Willamette Valley from the coast up to the Cascades, doing noxious weed control in the area and some outreach.
Thank you, Grant. And Microsoft calls her by another name, but we like to call her Bonnie. Bonnie Rasmussen.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Bonnie Rasmussen. I am the Southeastern Oregon Noxious Weed Specialist for Oregon Department of Ag, and I am located down in beautiful Burns, Oregon.
Thank you, Bonnie. Shonda Hillstead.
Hey, everybody. I'm Shonda Hillstead, located in Northeast Oregon.
Last one I see on this screen is Tristan Berg.
Tristan Berg. I'm the Oregon State Weed Board Grant Coordinator. And for record, we are starting the recording of our meeting. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Tristan. Page 2, I'll go over to Tom Forney. You're muted though, Tom.
There we go.
There we are.
Hi, I'm Tom Forney. I'm out of the Salem office. I'm the projects coordinator with the program, and nice to be here.
Thank you, sir. I see Ashley Toland on this screen as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Toland. I'm the new weed biocontrol entomologist, and I'm normally based out of Salem, but I'm calling in from Portland today.
Thanks, Ashley. Jordan Donaghy.
Hi, everyone. I'm the biological control technician, and I'm based out of Salem.
Thank you. Mitch Lex.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Mitch. I am one of 2 seasonal noxious weeds techs right now, based out of Bend.
Boy, there's a lot. I'm going to need me an assistant manager or something here soon. There's a lot of you folks. I think we've gotten through all of the internal weed staff, at least that I saw so far. But I do see our esteemed director, Lisa Sharpelows Hansen, on the screen, so might as well give you an opportunity to introduce yourself as well.
Great. Thanks, Troy. And that was a good slide in there, for some assistance in the weed program. Pretty tricky on your part. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Sharpelow Hansen, and I serve as the director of the Oregon Department of Agriculture. I'm delighted to be with you today and have an opportunity to chat.
Thank you, Lisa. I think if there's any ODA staff within the weeds program that I missed who has joined since we started and you haven't introduced yourself, please do so now. Otherwise, we'll move on. Hearing none, we are missing Mark Porter, at least for the moment. I know he will be here. He's our rangeland health specialist, former Northeast coordinator. Rob Banks, our other seasonal technician, is back on season already this year, but he's probably buried deep in some equipment maintenance somewhere. But just, glad to have Rob back for the season. So I think that'll round it out. Chair?
Thanks, Troy. Okay, next up on our agenda, board members, is a acknowledgement of our October minutes, and hopefully you had a chance to glance at them and bring me a motion to accept.
This is Wes. I'll move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
This is Dan, and I'll second. Yeah, I'll second that motion. Oh, sorry.
I'll take Dan Joyce for the second. Thank you. Any discussion, changes, corrections? Hearing none, here's where the chaos begins. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. All right. Looks like we've passed the minutes, and I will move right into our welcome to our director. And Lisa, just jump right in and start.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, thanks for inviting me to kick off your weed board meeting. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the board members for your service, ongoing service, and to welcome Wes to the board. I love to hear that you're out there feeding cows at the same time. So, you know, representing Southeastern Oregon, doing what you do. But we're really excited to have you on the board with us. Troy asked me to talk just a little bit about what was going on at ODA. And I think where I'll start is we are right in the middle of the short legislative session. I call this the session where you wear roller skates because it is zipping along and things move fast, and you just need to keep moving. And the crazy part was it started a week and a half ago, and basically we'll be narrowing things down, you know, end of the week, Monday-ish. And so we'll know what the field looks like. For ODA, this short session really is a lot about budget. As you probably have heard, we're short in Oregon in terms of budgetarily for some of the needs that are out there. And although we had a better economic forecast last week than we anticipated, it still leaves us somewhat short. ODA, like all the other agencies in state government, back in October, had to put together a list of potential options for the legislature to consider for budget reductions, up to 5% for all of our fund types. Those are in play. They were presented to the legislature during legislative days in November. And I think middle of last week, the Ways and Means Committee had a hearing to allow people to come in and talk about concerns, et cetera, around them. For ODA, the top line messages initially on the general fund side of things, we put forward vacancy savings and basically suggested we continue to hold some high level positions that we have in the agency vacant to help meet those goals. As we moved farther down the list, it got into real programs, grant programs that pass through ODA. Some of them may be important to many of you, so I will just mention them. Farm to school equipment grants, we offered up some of that money as a potential. We offered up some of the wolf compensation money as a potential. We offered up some of the wildlife services money as a potential. And then deeper down, a potential cut to the Pesticide Analytical Response Center, in which we helped to fund a position at the Oregon Health Authority. And then also the Pesticide Stewardship Partnership that's in conjunction with the Department of Environmental Quality on our general fund list. And so those are all out there in play. I don't know what's going to happen with them. On the lottery fund side, which matters a lot to this program, it was mostly around vacancy savings and some fund shifting of a couple of positions. And then as we look to other funds, again, there was vacancy savings and part of the Pesticide Stewardship Partnership. I would talk financially from, you've probably all heard over time a lot about what's going on with the federal administration and grant monies coming into state government. For the most part, I think ODA has been pretty fortunate. We haven't been hit the way many other agencies have. That said, I am cautious as we look into 26. And I wish Chris was on screen so I could see her face, and I can't. Around
I
some
am
of the
on screen.
Okay, then maybe you're on a different screen for me.
Yeah.
In our plant protection programs, we do a lot of work in conjunction with USDA APHIS, and they typically will provide us funding, and our programs are sort of built around that money. And we don't have a good sense yet for what that's going to look like for 26. So there is some uncertainty there. Additionally, during the 2025 legislative session, the money for our Japanese beetle eradication program was not funded. And so that has created market uncertainty for our nursery sector. There's a lot of work right now going on in terms of the nursery industry and advocacy, trying to find money for eradication work. And Chris and her team have worked really hard with our neighboring states and trading partners to come up with a plan to try and get us through this 26 season and still have product moving into markets. And so that's continuing to stay in play. I think when I think about the natural resource programs in this area, we used to have a lot of general fund, like in the weeds program. And Troy helped me, I think we were down to like 69,000 in general fund left in the weeds program. And again, we rely heavily on federal funds and cooperative agreements and agreements for work. And so having that stable base, again, causes me to pause. And so I think over the next year, and as we approach the 2027 long legislative session, we'll be having ongoing conversations around funding models for the plant protection area. That said, just yesterday in an all-agency directors meeting, we had conversations around preparation, even though we're right in the midst of the 26th legislative session, preparation for the 27 legislative session. It rolls around rather rapidly. And I fully anticipate, based on that, in terms of opportunities for general fund, lottery fund, it's going to be flat at best. And we already know we're out of sync on the lottery fund side as well, based on the funding model. And then in terms of other funds, we were told fees potentially to maintain current service level, but around affordability and Oregonians' concerns around affordability, I don't think fee increases are for new programs are going to go either. So I think it's going to be a lot of thinking and being strategic about what we do, where we do it, and how we do it, and really looking at what we've been doing and determine if there are places that we can change what we're doing and how we do it if we want to take on something new. So we've been in a state of evolution here at ODA for some time, and definitely in the 2 years that I've been back at the agency, we've called it realignment in terms of trying to get more of our services closer to the people and using staff across programs and not just program specific. Commissioner Joyce, you may be familiar in your area. We've really piloted what we call the field services model, where we're using staff that have traditionally been part of our shipping point inspection program, and they're helping our animal health program. They are helping our insect pest prevention program. So across the agency, and we're continuing to look for more places. Oh, as well as brands, doing brand inspection work. So really trying to have staff that have multiple capacities across the agency, and it in hopes of we can help hold our costs down in terms of some of the travel and other costs around employees there. So it's not a very rosy picture, but those are kind of the way the deck is laid out for us right now, and trying to figure out how to navigate, because we think it's really important that we work at maintaining our core services and keep our eye on the mission of the agency going forward. I think as we have these conversations, I'm hoping Troy will keep all of you up to speed, and we have a good sense of what all of you need out in your local communities from us, because that helps us shape what we do. I think I will pause there and see if there are any questions.
If anyone has any questions, you can speak up or use the raise hand function. There's 4 different screens of people here, so we may not be able to pick up on visual cues.
Or just speak out.
Yeah. I let you off easy today.
I'll
Wow.
speak up. I'll say something. Hi, Lisa. Thanks
Hi,
for
Chris.
making the time to be with us this afternoon. So I know you were talking about funding streams, and obviously, general funds have been short in this program. There's a lot of uncertainty around federal funds. But lottery funds are also really important to the Noxious Weed Control Program and our partners. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit, because this audience might be interested to know.
So you may or may not be familiar with, so I'll give you lottery funds like High Level 101. 15% of state lottery funds go to natural resources in this state. Half of that goes to OWEB for watershed restoration and watershed health. Of that, a portion goes to operations for 5 different state agencies. So it would be OWEB, DEQ, ODFNW, State Police, and ODA, if my memory serves me correctly. And then the majority of the funding goes to grants on the ground. And a couple of years ago, and it actually happened while I was at OWEB, there is a constitutional trigger to change the mix of how much money can go to grants versus how much money can go to operations. And we hit that trigger, and so there's less dollars available now on the operations side of the OWEB funding, which impacts all 5 of the agencies that receive those dollars. So we know that there'll be a discussion about rebalancing the lottery funds in the 2026 legislative session. And on the operations side, it typically means people. And so we're going to have to figure out how we navigate through that. Chris, do you want to add to that, or is that enough high levels? It's tight. Everywhere you look right now for state dollars, it's tight.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else you guys want to ask me about? You have me on the spot. And usually Troy's the one that puts his hand up and has some good zinger for me. So I always am prepared for something to come in from Troy.
I already made my move earlier in my opening statements. I already played my card today.
Only one?
Hey.
I told
I'm
him to be
playing-
nice.
I'm playing chess here. We're playing chess today.
So Lisa, I have one, and I'll just give you just a quick snapshot. You may have already heard in our conversations at AOC Legislative Committee this week, the issue about Japanese beetle came up, and it is clearly a hotter topic on the west side than it is on the east side. But it is a topic, and it came up because of the bill. I've forgotten the House bill number, but the TLT tax proposal from Helm and Owens. And the Japanese beetle problem is going to have an impact on whether that bill gets support from county commissioners. So I'm curious about, and I know it's not specific to plants, but I'm curious about whether you have any insight into where we're heading with that. And I mean, it does have a little bit of attachment to what we're doing.
Yeah, so I haven't been as close to it. I think the implications from the transportation lodging tax, that really touch us are wolf compensation, which really matters on the east side, some funding for that, and then the funding for invasive species. I hadn't heard, and I don't know if Chris might have a little bit more of that being maybe one of the vehicles for Japanese beetle. Is that what you were hearing?
No, so that's completely independent. So those
Okay.
revenue that would come from the tax lodging would go to multiple avenues. And like Lisa mentioned, the two for ODA would be going towards wolf depreciation to secure some funding mechanism that way. And for the Oregon Invasive Species Council. So that is completely independent than our Japanese beetle work. So that would go to the funding of the council to have some sustained revenue potentially for that organization, which is kind of quasi governmental and lives within our budget.
Does that help you, Commissioner?
No, it doesn't, because it leaves me nothing to report back as we continue to have conversations with it. That just would give hope to what is going to be the solution. How are we going to find that solution? And I know that you're restricted on things that you can say to legislators, perhaps, but I'd like to be able to have some sense of what we're talking about. How are we going to solve this problem?
If I may, Chair Pope, if I could make a recommendation, and I'm happy to connect you to perhaps connect directly with the Oregon Association of Nurseries, because they really have been, obviously, this is a critical issue for their industry. They've been connecting with leaders in other ag sectors in Oregon because this will touch other sectors beyond the nursery industry if this goes unchecked. So I think they would really be a good place to start to kind of get that maybe perspective that you're looking for and what kind of a potential game plan is looking like and what they're doing on their end.
No, I get that they're lobbying. They want that money. They want it back, but I don't know what that message is. And so that's why I just thought I'd ask if there was a perspective on the solutions going forward from a director level.
I think
so.
So that's helpful to lay the foundation. I wasn't connecting the dots, Commissioner, for exactly where you were trying to go with that. From a director level, you're right in terms of us advocating for money this session. We're limited, but we have been working very closely, Chris, especially with OAN, providing the information in terms of the cost, what we can do, depending on the level of funding and what that buys. And then I think, just continuing to do as much work as we can to keep the markets open with our neighboring states with access agreements. We need funding for the eradication piece, though. The eradication piece is absolutely key to us keeping our status and being able to move product. And we made tremendous progress over time in terms of isolating the invasive, but dollars need to be made available to do the eradication part.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but thank you for
that's okay.
participating.
And once I understood the question.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'm going to move us along. Thank you,
Great.
Director.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a great meeting and thank
Thank you,
you for your
Risa.
service.
Appreciate you.
All right, next up is our BLM update. Is Grace Haskins available?
I am.
Excellent. Take it away.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to meet you all, likely some of you meeting again. As mentioned, I'm Grace Haskins. I am the Oregon-Washington BLM Invasive Species Coordinator, and I've been in this role for just over a year. Many of you might know me from my previous federal employment, where I was the Lake County Cooperative Weed Management Coordinator from 2007 to 2013. And then after that, I served as the Lakeview District BLM Weed Coordinator from 2013 to 2021. And then I took a short stint from 2021 to 2024 as an assistant field manager. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be back in weeds. Definitely weeds and plants are much more my speed than managing people. So I'm super excited to be back in this role and to be able to work with ODA and to be here today at the Oregon State Weed Board to give an update from the BLM. So feel free to stop and ask questions as I go. One of the main topics that Troy reached out to me about a couple weeks ago was asking about an update regarding the Title II funding. Unfortunately, even though many of the weed programs do get a lot of funding from Title II, a lot of the working parts of Title II within the BLM, it's really not from my purview. But I did reach out to the upper management in the timber program, and I was able to get a small update for you guys, likely an update that you guys are already very aware of, but I figured that it was better to bring something than nothing to the table since Troy asked for an update. So what I got was currently we are working on the 2024 and 2025 Title I and Title II payments, and we anticipate the counties making elections for the FY26 payments this summer. Period. So that's all the update that I really have on that. I know that's probably not what you guys were really looking for as far as a big program update. But that was kind of all the information that was available at the time when I requested information on it. They did tell me that hopefully there'll be just some news releases coming out soon regarding a little bit more information, especially on kind of how some of the elections might go this summer on how those positions will be filled. So please stay tuned on that. I would ask for questions, but I really don't have a whole lot more to add than that on that topic. So just kind of a little bit of an update from our program. So a few big ticket items that we're working at the state office level for the BLM. Some of you may be aware and some not. So back in starting in 2015, we started to do a lot of step down NEPA to lift our injunction to be able to add a lot more chemicals to our arsenal to be able to control weeds across the state. And we're back at that again. So currently we are adding some more chemicals to Prineville, Burns, and I know it's not Oregon, and also the Spokane districts. So Prineville and Burns will be getting aminopyrrolid, rimsulfuron, fluoxapyr, and the much awaited indaziflam, along with several other herbicides. Burns is the same. And Spokane already had aminopyrrolid, rimsulfuron, and fluoxapyr. So one of the main herbicides that they'll be adding is also indaziflam. Of course, and those are going to help us a lot on the east side of the states for post-fire restoration and sage grouse projects to control non-native invasive annual grasses across the state. So that's exciting news, a lot of work. Those EAs are currently being worked on by both BLM staff and Christy Denton, who did our EAs before. So that is a huge help by having a contractor assist with some of that big workload for us. Is there any questions about those NEPA projects that are going on? A lot of them have been scoped, so if you guys might have even gotten letters yourself about those projects. I am lucky enough to be the program officer for the ODA statewide assistance agreement, and I'm very happy to report that I did just recently get DOI approval to move forward with continuing that agreement and modifying the funding to have coordinated efforts for 2016. So that's super exciting. Our staff on the BLM is currently working on putting together their annual project request forms. Last year, based on my records, we had over 20 projects that ODA helped us with, and that does not even include just our statewide education and our biocontrol programs. So it's a huge work or a huge help to the BLM across the whole state. So thank you, and big kudos to the ODA program for all your guys' continued help and support. Another one of the big projects that I've been working on at the state level is Emerald Ash Borer. Of course, this is mostly affecting Northwest Oregon. We are lucky enough to work with another one of your guys' state agencies. Oregon Department of Forestry is doing a wonderful job keeping everybody looped in and informed on the movement. BLM did have one detection of emerald ash borer this last year in July on our Cascades field office. Let's see. Another big project that I get to work on is I'm the COR for all of our large aerial herbicide contracts in Eastern Oregon and Washington. Unfortunately, we are going to have likely a capacity issue because we did lose one of our main pilots this last year in an accident. But I just recently talked to the company and they're hoping to fill some pilot positions. A few struggles that we are dealing with the BLM, just I wanted to share with you guys, not only just from our weeds program, but kind of across. And of course, this is probably nothing new that you guys haven't already heard, but staffing issues continue to be an issue. We aren't hiring a whole lot at the moment, and we did have a lot of retirements and DRPs over the last year or so. Luckily enough, for our weeds and botany program, we held up pretty good through that process and we're still pretty well staffed. However, a lot of our staff that we do have is pretty new, especially on the west side of Oregon. Another one of the struggles, and I know that it was kind of touched on earlier by the director's presentation, is of course, we're struggling getting some of our assistance agreements through our new process. So as you guys probably are all aware, we do have to go through a DOI level review on all assistance agreements and contracts over $50,000 at the moment. So that was the DOI approval that I was referring to earlier about our ODA agreement getting approval on. These reviews are pretty rigorous. And many of our partners and nonprofits that have been helping the BLM out for years, they're struggling with getting our projects for those are struggling on getting approved at the DOI level. This is one of the big concerns when I brought up updates that we should bring forward to the Oregon State Weed Board from the BLM is we are concerned for our partners because we are struggling with getting funding to them to help support the work that they have helped us with throughout, for years. And we're concerned also just about, based on the amount of funding that we do often put into assistance agreement about how they're going to withstand this time until we figure out good options to move forward.
Grace, this is Troy. I have a question, if you don't mind. So
yeah,
the subject matter you just mentioned, something we've been hearing a lot about at ODA, and it's not obviously isolated to Interior. We're hearing the same from Ag in that we're getting a lot of requests to act as a pass-through because we have existing agreements that are, it's easier to put money into those and have us funnel it out than it is to initiate new agreements with these other partners. We don't have a lot of capacity here at ODA to do that. And so we haven't been able to really answer the call much for, at all. so I'm hoping there's other folks that have been able to answer the call in some way, but what's the long-term kind of outlook there? Is it just a log jam that eventually will give way and things will go back to normal? Do we see this as being a long-term issue? I mean, we've seen some of our nonprofit partners, especially on the native plant side, lose almost their entire budgets. I mean, they almost cease to be an organization anymore because of this issue. So what's the long-term kind of outlook there?
It's a great question. I think that each administration, they come with, kind of new ways of doing things, and it takes us sometimes just a while to figure it out. I know GNAs seem to be going through okay, so our Good Neighbor authorities with our state agencies. I know that I got a DOI approval for both ODA and Oregon Department of Forestry. So those ones seem to be going through okay. I think that a lot of it is just figuring out the type of language that we need to include on our DOI approvals, and I'm hoping that once we figure that out, I'm hoping that it's just a logjam at the moment and that we'll be able to figure that out. As you guys probably know, there's administrative priorities, and I am pretty happy on our priority list that invasive species is one of those. It just looks a little bit different to what we're usually seeing. Usually it's like, oh yeah, go and control invasive species and do your monitoring and survey work and that type of stuff. And this time through, based on the stuff that's been passed through to me, so the invasive species heading is the projects need to support the priorities related to preventing the spread of invasive species in the interest of reducing wildfires, national security, water and power security, and recreation. And so I think a lot of it is just making sure that we fit our projects into that. And just, it seems like years ago we used to talk about, the spread of invasive species very similar to a wildfire. And I think we almost need to go back and rebrand and talk about invasive species, just how they are a fuel load. And I think that those type of assistance agreements will probably go through because there seems to be quite a bit of interest in preventing wildfires. And, and that's, for the east side or for the west side, I mean, whether it is, blackberries and broom and, all those type of things, those are fuel loads just like the invasive annuals over on the east side. And so I think it's just getting our language, down to how it needs to be and fitting into priorities. I'm hoping that it's just a logjam that we figure out. We do work as a team all the time. Like as soon as, like I got our ODA agreement approved, I share my language with the others so that they know like what my approval looked like. Excuse me, just so that we can start getting some things broke through a little bit. I know there is some other ways. I know like our aquatics program has been going through OWEB with a large ODA agreement. Sorry, I'm coughing again. And so there's some workarounds.
Good, thanks. We are running a little over time, but if you had a few more things, you could buzz through them quick. And
I think I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Grace.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate everything you're doing over there. And it was great to get the good news that we'll be able to move forward with our agreement. And we look forward to engaging once again with BLM across the state. So we'll be talking to you soon on that front.
Keep right on
I think I'm
going,
next,
Troy.
Chair. I could just keep her rolling here.
Yep.
So provide an update. I can probably get us close to back on schedule here if I don't dilly-dally too long. I gave an update back in October at the weed board meeting out in Baker County. So in some ways, not a whole lot has happened since then, but there's always stuff going on and do have some updates for you. Since then, normal program operations, a lot of internal and external reporting related to those federal agreements, end of year closeouts, data management. It's also this time of year when we start to develop our biocontrol proposals. And this year, that's been a little bit different process, but in a good way, because we've been able to meet with different staff from USDA APHIS and really align our state priorities with the federal priorities. That's something that I've really been prioritizing in my years as manager so far, not just with USDA APHIS, but with the Forest Service and BLM, making sure that when we do these assistance agreements that we're hitting the mark for those federal partners and the intent of those funding sources, but making sure they're really well integrated with what our priorities and our needs here at the state are. So we met with APHIS and are finalizing those proposals, and one of them will be us re-engaging with Scotch Broom, actually, on the biocontrol front. It's one that we monitor and we kind of are aware of and stay up to speed on with our existing agents and existing populations, but not one where we've done any meaningful releases anytime really recently. However, after the 2020 wildfires, if you've been up the 22 corridor at all recently, you've seen the dramatic release of the Scotch broom that had been suppressed under those closed canopies. It's really unlike anything I've ever seen in my weeds career so far, outside of annual grass invasions. It's really, between Mill City and Detroit, it's really something. And so we're going to need to do something about it. And we're obviously not going to be able to spray it all, but it is a prime target for biocontrol. So we'll be looking to do some survey and monitoring for any existing populations, and then do some releases in some of those areas to help try to suppress the seed production at least. So looking forward to that. Lots of project and grant application consultations. You'll hear obviously about many of those projects and grants as we get through this meeting tomorrow. So our staff has been busy all across the state with those consultations, doing a great job, putting in a lot of hours with that. We're also updating some education and outreach materials. Been a long haul there because we have quite a few of them. Not only did they need updated for content, but they also were outdated according to our new branding requirements. So very soon we will have updated noxious weed profiles and our statewide management strategies. Those statewide management strategies cover our A and T listed weeds. And so we'll look for release of those later in Q2 of 2026. CWMA and working group meetings, presentations to the public, and then Tristan continues to provide support to the Invasive Species Council, as well as her huge workload from this grant program. A lot of regional coordination and engagement. Mark Porter leading our Rangeland Health Initiative, concentrating on invasive annual grass and rangeland resilience projects. Really has kind of found his footing over the last 6 to 8 months and is making a lot of great progress, a lot of great connections with some really amazing networks and groups of folks who are doing really amazing work at a scale that we just haven't done it at before, and no one really has. And so it's really inspiring and it's really exciting. Another thing that he's working on that'll come soon is a drone application training. So we're going to partner with some other organizations to facilitate a drone application training day. And then also we've been engaging with local municipalities, in particular lately, ordinances down in Bandon, Oregon, around gorse. Appreciate the letter, Craig, on behalf of the board. We delivered that to the Bandon City Council. Along with us there at the meeting, there was strong community support. And what started as a meeting that may have looked to shift the language and the approach in Bandon from a mandatory and regulatory standpoint to a voluntary type of program with gorse, by the time the meeting was over, led to an even stronger and more concise regulatory framework for that program, which was a great outcome. And then also it kind of spurred conversations around a desire for a regional expansion of models like the Gorse Action Group model, to expand beyond that kind of gorse epicenter in Bandon to a multi-county, multi-jurisdictional, multi-partner network that is much larger. So a great outcome there, turning kind of a potentially negative situation into a real positive. And it seems like everybody's, getting on the same page down there. So that was great. I think we're going to get on time. I got 2 minutes left and I got about 2 minutes worth of stuff. So just a quick highlight of future strategic priorities and field work. We are currently in the recruitment phase for a new position that will help address burned area response priorities on U.S. Forest Service and adjacent lands on the Mount Hood and Willamette National Forest. A great new partnership with the U.S. Forest Service. Again, one of those places where we were able to align state priorities with federal priorities. They're going to fund a staff member to work on those burned area lands, on those forests as they continue the response and recovery after the 2020 fires. We will immediately follow that with another recruitment for our second rangeland health specialist. So this will be someone that will work very closely with Mark Porter to implement the scope of work under that Natural Working Lands and NRCS funded initiative. We'll station them somewhere other than where Mark's at. It'll kind of be dependent on where the prime candidate is located, on where we station them, but really looking forward to kind of finishing that build out of that team. And I know a lot of the partners and people we've been working with are just chomping at the bit to have that person on board. So that'll be great. One thing we've identified for quite some time now, but really are going to start prioritizing is further engagement with our county noxious weed districts, in particular those counties who either don't have one or have one, but it's not functioning at a high level or it's been dormant. We depend so much on that local jurisdictional control and support. We also want to be able to put money into those counties through the County Weed Grant Program that's part of the Weed Board program. So engaging in those counties that need some help to revive or revitalize or maybe form for the first time a county noxious weed district is something that I'll be prioritizing and will likely lean on the board in certain cases to help advocate for that in those counties. We will engage in the aforementioned effort to expand the Gorse Action Group model. Not sure what that'll look like at this point, but we are going to engage in earnest there and do whatever we can to help and provide technical assistance and resources. We will continue to evaluate potential improvements to this State Weed Board grant program. We made some changes to the county weed grants, and I think I like the outcome of that. But that process has also highlighted some other things we probably need to look at. And so we'll do some of that analysis and then come back to the board and talk about some ideas and potential remedies to some situations that we kind of see looming there. Also going to be doing some evaluation and leveraging of a recently produced State of the State on Aquatic Weeds. This is a 120-page report that I commissioned from a private consultant this last year. It's dense and there's a lot of stuff in it, but they did a great job of really kind of evaluating where we are in terms of the weeds themselves, as well as our ability to respond and manage those weeds. And it comes with a full suite of recommendations, data integration suggestions, as well as models that we can adopt for that data integration. So looking forward to wrapping my head around that a little bit better, presenting those results to the board, and then also sharing it out to other sister agencies and state partners so we can maybe work together to start to move the needle a little more on aquatic weeds, which is an area, as you know, that we've struggled with. And then, as Lisa mentioned, continuing to explore models for stability, not only for our base operations, but balancing that with the ever-growing need for support from partners and land managers across the state. So that concludes my program update for the ODA Noxious Weed Program. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. Sleepy bunch today.
Or everybody's doing such a great, thorough job of giving information that nobody needs to ask questions.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that one. I like it.
All right. Why don't you just take us right on into the next item?
All right, so we are going to have ODA regional staff round robin style go and give some kind of broad, high level highlights about what's going on in their regions. Certainly not exhaustive presentations, but we'll give you an idea of some of the priority work and challenges in those areas. And we'll start off with the Northwest Regional Specialist, Beth Myers-Shanai.
All right, I am seeing if I can pull things up. Get into slideshow mode. All right, and it jumped right to the correct version. Everybody seeing my slideshow okay? I'm not hearing
Yeah, we
anybody.
can see it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, good.
looks great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're
Yep,
good.
sorry, everyone disappears from me. So, yeah, this just a really quick little look at what's going to be up in the Northwest region. This is an 8-county region that covers kind of Clackamas County over towards Tillamook County and on up to the Columbia Gorge, including Hood River. So 8 counties in that region. And my main focuses are going to be in a few different areas. A lot of outreach and training opportunities. Currently working on getting a whole new suite of weed profiles that we can put on our website, share with people to print out that have a lot more heavier influence with the photos and identification methods of those plants. So I'm looking forward to getting more of those rolled out. Mitch Lex is helping me with the current Weed Mapper update. And then I'll be heading to the Oregon Vegetation Management Association meeting with a whole bunch of plants to put on the weed quiz there, have people see if they can figure out which weeds are what. I'll also be doing a short presentation at the Invasive Species and Exotic Pest Workshop that the the Columbia Gorge Cooperative Weed Management Area puts on each year. There was a small detection of yellow floating heart in Hood River County, so I'm going to give a quick lightning presentation at that. And then a little later in the spring, a big conference, Connect Plus, that is primarily targeted for the soil and water conservation districts, but when they put the plus at the end of their conference name, it means they kind of broaden their scope a bit. But I'm going to be doing a co-presentation on our Lolo Pass hawkweed project and how that was a catalyst to a large-scale collaboration on all of Mount Hood National Forest. And then in this photo, you can see me in last year's North Coast Cooperative Weed Management Area field training. So they put on this great training each year where they can gather any folks who are new in the area to their noxious weed work or are seasonals, and just put on a great full day workshop focusing on plant identification, safety in the field, survey methods, things like that. And also we'll, as always, have fun at the Oregon State Fair later this year in August. And then I will be making the rounds to make sure I'm monitoring EDRR sites, and I'm going to get a couple of new site visits in this year, which I'm really excited for. I'm going to be heading up to Clackamas County and arranging a trip to where they found the round-leafed bittersweet, which the board just added to the noxious weed list at the last meeting as an A-listed weed from that one find in Clackamas County. So that'll be my first chance to get on the ground there. There also is a site of mouse ear hawkweed that was discovered up, I think, in some Portland Water Bureau near the Edge Bull Run watershed area that I'm going to have a look at. I guess they think they only just detected it, but from all of their road surveys, they were looking along the sides of the road as they were driving, and then it became apparent that there was actually some in the middle of the road, and they might have been driving back and forth over it a few times during previous surveys before they detected it. I'm also going to monitor the Portland population of Delta Arrowhead, which is another A-listed aquatic weed, aquatic emergent, that I've actually never been to the site. It was discovered and was being addressed locally before I became the full regional specialist. So I'm going to circle back because I've heard that they're still working on a little bit of it. So I want to have a look at it, see what the site looks like, make sure I get a feel for what that looks like and and how the control is going. And then I'll be helping from some established EDRR work in Hood River County on keeping the garlic mustard there. From moving on into the forest. So we do an annual EDRR sweep and find just tiny little seedlings and stop them from getting any larger, while more work goes on from at the local level with some of the bigger areas of it within an organic orchard. And then I do a lot of work in Clatsop County monitoring the A-listed and BT listed weeds up there each year. So that'll be another focus of mine. And then our cooperator support on Mount Hood National Forest will be getting a lot of work in, especially with the help of the new person who is currently under recruitment. So there's the big Lolo Pass Hawkweed project, the one I'll be featuring at the Connect Plus conference with Brandon Fordyce from Clackamas SWCD. I work on hawkweeds in the Zigzag Ranger District, also in collaboration with the Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District, and burned areas in the Clackamas Ranger District, a lot of knapweed and a few singles. There's a couple of small false brome sites in Hood River Ranger District. And then new this year, are going to collaborate more on the Barlow Ranger District, which is something that ODA hasn't done a lot of work connected on the forest in that Ranger District, but they're looking for some additional help. So as we plan our year on the forest, we'll be adding Barlow Ranger District into it this year. And then a couple of other cooperators, Tillamook BLM over on the coast. We've been working with them in the Little North Fork Wilson River and the Trask River. And there's still a lot of work to do on the Trask section. We've had contractors in the Little North Fork Wilson. I was able to help collaborate and pull together the multi-ownership that infestation of knotweed. It's this tiny little watershed. It's the, addressing every single plant within the entire watershed kind of project. And so I was able to pull the county, the state forest, as well as the BLM together for permission so that BLM could fund a contract crew, and then helping the botanists there oversee the project when it happens. The Trask River, we don't have a contractor to do that one. There is a lot there. We didn't get it done last year because we got rained out. So we're hoping to get back over there with me and an seasonal and their botanist and see if we can start addressing that one. And then I had a request from Department of Forestry to kind of be a guide and a mentor over their initial attempts to treat some upper watershed knotweed on the Miami River. So I was able to work together with them, kind of take them through the steps for safe riparian treatment with aquatic herbicides, which is something that forestry has shied away from because they get a lot of scrutiny about their forestry practices. But on this trip, I was able to have a visit with our new safety officer at ODA. And so this is Jen in the photo, walking around and seeing what kinds of ways I interact in my world and to help collaborate on ways we can always do things better, make things safer. But it was a great time to meet her and a great project to take her on. And then I'll just be doing grant projects, but I don't know who it will be for sure yet because we have not funded any. Here's a few pictures from last year's work. So when we have A-listed species, it's still part of my work to go out and interact with those projects, offer my help, make sure they have all the support they need, see how things are going on the ground. So we did, some Willamette River work on yellow floating heart and garden yellow loosestrife. We did mouse ear hawkweed work. This picture is from Yamhill, and then Yamhill Soil and Water Conservation District, and then Clackamas Soil and Water and State Parks. We were surveying for mouse ear hawkweed in that right-hand picture. It's growing at Milo MacGyver State Park, right in the disc golf area. So that was kind of a fun day out because we were making sure we didn't get whacked in the ear with a flying disc as we were looking around. But pretty confident after that last survey that we had multi-cooperators gather for that we've really delineated what is there. And with that, that's kind of the big overview of all the areas I'm going to be covering this year. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Anybody got any questions for Beth? Seeing none, we will move just down the coast and down the 5 for Grant Jackson.
Hello, y'all. How you doing? See that? You see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I can see it, Grant.
Hit the swap displays button up at the top left there.
Okay. Is that better?
There you go.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I feel like I'm always fumbling around with this stuff. Yeah, hold on. All right, so my name's Grant Jackson, obviously from what you see on the screen, and my territory is Central West. It's a 6-county area. Marion, Polk, Lynn, Benton, Lincoln, Lane, and I already said Polk. And I've been working in this area for, I don't know, 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I was with ODA Pesticides Program for 9 years. I used to do a lot of outreach and registration of pesticide labels, all sorts of stuff went on there. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, so my presentation is geared more towards what happened in the last year and what will be happening this year. So my A-rated weeds of concern here in Central West region are oblong spurge, garden yellow loosestrife, yellow floating heart, Patterson's curse, orange hawkweed, and giant hogweed. So the most sites that I have are with garden yellow loosestrife and oblong spurge. Oblong spurge is found in Benton County, and then up here in Marion County, mostly in Kaiser, but there are some sites in Salem, South Salem near my house, actually. I didn't do that, but near my house up at McKinley School, there's a couple sites. It's like I can walk there and pull the plants, which is awesome. So lots of like good monitoring and follow up there. And then some historic sites at the prison on State Street, and then at the National Guard compound. So these are oblong spurge sites. It's always interesting going to the prison. They tell me when I go there to treat the weeds, I'm like, am I going to get shot if you guys see me out there on the grounds? They're just like, as long as you're outside the wall, you'll be fine. So that's always interesting. The guys are super nice. Anyway, those sites I have, the historic sites are getting the amount of new plants that come up each year are decreasing, and it's good to see that it's improving. But what worries me about oblong spurge is that we found a kind of a cluster in Kaiser that the more I looked around, the more I found it. So this year should be interesting with that. I treated what I found, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes of that. Garden yellow loosestrife and yellow floating heart are 2 A-rated weeds that I've been working on the Willamette River watershed there on the main stem between Eugene and Clackamas County. Basically, there's various locations through there. Beth and I both work on those plants, and we work with our partner organizations in the area. And then there was one spot of Patterson's curse that was found on Dexter Reservoir a couple of years ago now, and that site is almost eradicated. I mean, it won't be eradicated for another few more years, but I went back this last year and there was only one plant. The good thing about that site is there's a neighborhood there, and the people in that neighborhood are super vigilant about finding new starts and basically telling me what's up when they find them. They control it. They're on the case down there. And then there's a location of orange hawkweed that was found in Depot Bay last year or 2 years ago now by a student. She was a student at one of the community colleges in a horticulture program, and she had learned about our invasive species list through her class, and she filed a report on iNaturalist that I found when I was scrolling through there, because I do periodically to see if there's any new reports in my area. I went out there, checked it out, and yeah, sure enough, it was orange hawkweed. I thanked her and controlled that site. We got it before it went to seed, and it was a really small patch, which was really good. And then there's two giant hogweed sites that are historic sites, one on BLM land in my region, and the other in Polk County. Somebody filed a report on Oregon Invasive Species Hotline last year. Beth Teal from Polk SWCD, and I followed up on that. I dug it out, manually removed it. So let me see if I can get going here. It's just some pictures of me and some of my colleagues working this past year on A-rated weed projects. Two pictures on the river, and then Benton County oblong spurge site that I've been working on with Benton SWCD, Sierra Dawson down there in Benton. She's been great to work with, and Michael R. and the rest of that crew down there. I love working with those folks. Orange hawkweed out in Depot Bay, and then working with our Zodiac, which is a rubberized boat with an outboard 40 horse on it that helps us get into some pretty remote locations on the Willamette River. That's an awesome piece of equipment that I got my boating license a couple of years ago, and now we take it out all the time. It helps us get in there, and just awesome for logistics, transport, that sort of thing. And then BT rated weeds with regional partners I've been working on. Garlic mustard, which was found, we'd already had a couple spots up in Marion County that were being attended to by Marion SWCD and some other partners, North Santiam Watershed Council. But we found, actually somebody with ODF and W found a patch of garlic mustard on a conservation area near Monroe in south of Corvallis off of 99. And so I responded to that quickly, and we've been getting down there. I've been down there a couple times to spray and treat that patch. Now it's contractors are going to be working on it too, so hopefully we can get that under control. And then Ludwigia, I've been working with several partners on that in surrounding counties. North Santiam Watershed Council. We did a river survey this past summer between Lyons and Staten, and there were several spots that I treated. Small patches though, which was really good, and we didn't find any other invasive weeds on that stretch, which was really cool. Especially because of all the Scotch broom in that area that's been going on, and knapweed and stuff. And then I've been partnering with Polk SWC the past couple of years to control Ludwigia on a small pond next to Basket Slough National Wildlife Refuge. We're trying to get upstream sources of Ludwigia through a collaborative effort there. And then Lane County Department of Public Works, there hasn't been much collaboration with Lane County the past couple of years. They have a lot of good organizations going on down there, but it's all kind of like factioned, if you will. And so I was able to get a rapport going with Department of Public Works down there, and we're working on a couple of different projects. One of which is the Ludwigia issue that they had on a small stormwater retention pond. And so I treated that for them. Here's some pictures of the aforementioned projects. We got a Partner of the Year award from Polk SWCD for our efforts to help with their invasive species outreach efforts and control efforts. This was presented to us this past summer to both Beth Meyer-Shanai and I. And then garlic mustard spot down in Monroe I was talking about, and a couple of those Ludwigia spots, one in Davenport Pond out next to Basket Slough, and the storm water retention pond in Lane County. And then I have projects going on with other cooperators that we have. Willamette National Forest through the Forest Service, Army Corps of Engineers, and then BLM. They take up a lot of my time in the summer, going around and spraying different sites on BLM land, Army Corps property, and roadside sprays on National Forest property, trying to protect burn scars from invasive species. Meadows around these Army Corps installations are full of Fender's blue butterflies and other endangered species. So we're trying to preserve those areas. And then knotweed control on the Mackenzie and Willamette, the Mackenzie subbasin and the Willamette River basins down in Lane County. It's beautiful down in Mackenzie. I love working down there. Here's just a few more pictures that I got from this past year's work of knotweed containment, burn scar, spotted knapweed work up on Willamette National Forest, and then working with colleagues. We do a lot of regional, like we team up together sometimes on projects, and it helps with logistics and multiplier effect of labor and being able to get more done. So yeah, and then outreach. I do several outreach events each year. One of which that I just did back in October was with Benton SWCD and Institute for Applied Ecology was in on that. We did a workshop for small woodland owners in Corvallis. That was pretty cool. And it's always good getting the word out about the invasive species that we're trying to control. Because education is the once you get people aware of what they need to look for, you can, like that person that called me about or that filed a report about orange hawkweed out in Depot Bay. It's a multiplier effect in and of itself when people know what to look for. So there's the Zodiac. That thing's great. I wish I had one. I just don't have a garage to put it in. Here's my contact info if you need to contact me. So that's it. I'll let the next person get going. Any questions out there? Guess not. Thanks for being attentive, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. We'll move to Southwest Oregon and Carrie Perosco. You are still muted, Carrie, if you're trying to talk to us at all.
Yep, there she goes. I put the presentation on too soon to get to the mute button. Okay, good afternoon. We're going to keep heading south, as Troy said, down into the southwest corner of the state. And I get the pleasure of working with lots of partners down in Coos, Curry, Douglas, Jackson, and Josephine counties. I work on a slew of A-rated noxious weeds, as well as assisting partners with B-rated weeds. 10 minutes couldn't even do justice to any single weed that I work on, but I did want to highlight which counties I do which project. And then in red, you'll see where projects that take more of my time than the others. Alyssum, that's yellow tuft alyssum in Josephine County, distaff thistle in Douglas County, and then Spartina densiflora over on the coast in Coos County. Most of the projects take less than a week, but the ones highlighted in red take, 2, 3, 4 weeks of my time each season. Right there in the photo, you have oblong spurge in Josephine County. It's at a wildlife center, and that's their latest bear. Gilbert is his name, a grizzly bear that was orphaned in Montana and made its way to Oregon. So we get to work around some really cool wildlife on that project. All right, so the tact I took with my 10-minute update was to share a win, a setback, and then I wanted to highlight a couple partners. So let's start with the win. Patterson's Curse. This year, we only found 9 plants across 300 gross acres. This project has been going for, as of last year, 21 years. It started in 2024. And at that time, you can see on this brochure in the upper left-hand corner what the site used to look like. It was just hills of purple, 100 net acres over that 300 gross acres that originally had to be helicopter sprayed. So now with Oregon State Weed Board funds given to the Douglas Soil and Water Conservation District, I organize a contracts cruise, and we go across two large property owners, Roseburg Forest Products and K-Bar Ranches, land owned by the tribe. And we only found 9 plants. So that is a huge, huge win. And we take the wins when we get them. All right, that gets me to my setback of 2025, Spartina densiflora. Just when you think you're getting ahead and winning, you find more. And that's exactly what happened this last season. A new site was found and reported by Coos Watershed Association, Ed Cope, in Bandon Marsh. Prior to that, we did not know Spartina in that area of Coos County. So that's a big find. Ed was awarded a detection award at our last symposium. It was so significant. We did get out with partners and comb that area. We had Portland State, Coos Watershed Association. We had some private citizens help us, as well as BLM, and as well as Coquille Watershed Association. And of course, Bandon Marsh, which is U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They have been a fantastic new partner on this project, helping with treatments and with survey. Happy to report that we did not find tons and tons of Spartina in Bandon Marsh. And so that we did find a plant here and there and little pockets, but nothing that is not still very manageable. For perspective, Spartina has taken over areas just like this you see in the photo, beautiful wetland, marshland habitat in San Francisco Bay and Humboldt Bay, and then north of us in Washington and Willapa Bay. I mean, just devastating to native systems as well as oyster production up in Washington. So this plant really can be a game changer if we don't detect it early and treat it as eradication. The other area where we have found more plants is in Coos Bay proper. We've known of populations there for a number of years that we've been working on, but our area that we have found plants, individual plants and small patches has expanded. So we're having to do a lot more survey work out there and a lot more partner work getting these plants treated. All right, I'm going to shift now to 2 groups that I'd like to highlight, 2 partners on the South Coast that are just really doing phenomenal work that I thought the State Weed Board would want to hear about. The Gorse Action Group, I have mentioned this group at previous updates, but this group continues to just do spectacular work. We're about 10 years into a formalized MOU between 35 to 40 partners on the South Coast. That MOU was the result of the governor's office giving a facilitator through Oregon Regional Solutions Project to the group to add partners to the mission and to really think about what can be done with gorse on the South Coast. 10 years ago, partners dreamed of having hundreds of acres managed and $1 million budgets, just kind of laughing, thinking, oh, that'll never happen. We're going to dig in, we're going to do it, but boy, we really need big scale funding. And that's where things have gone. This photo here is at a Gorse Blossom Festival that's held right around peak bloom usually around Valentine's Day in Bandon, Oregon. And the local partners have this beautiful pop-up tent to educate landowners about gorse. 10 years ago, when we were at booths educating people, there was a lot of folks that really didn't know much about gorse. And if they did know about it, they said, oh, you'll never be able to do anything on gorse. It's just here to stay. And so last year at the Gorse Blossom Festival, we have turned that mindset around. And what we primarily get is locals coming through and saying, hey, I saw so-and-so killing these plants. They're not coming back. What products what tools are in the toolbox for us to use? So we educate them about what tools they can use on their lands to control gorse. Here's an overview of just the scope of what the Gorse Action Group has been able to accomplish. This is a 5-year accomplishment report from 2019 to 2023. Nearly 10,000 acres were treated in that time frame, over 400 landowners, and close to $5 million was secured by partners, including money from the Oregon State Weed Board to deal with outlier populations. On the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see that prevention and survey rapid response, kind of that EDRR, are highlighted in orange polygons and points. And then our control and containment areas, those are kind of our epicenters of the larger pockets of gorse, are highlighted in red. And so you can see the mapping that the partners do is pretty intense and pretty organized in terms of how we're reporting the successes that are being made. Moving forward, we have funding sources. Of course, this plant, gorse, falls squarely in the middle of fuels reduction and fire because it is very flammable and makes it eligible for that type of funding. Grace was mentioning with the BLM earlier, some of our weeds are just, that wildfire thing. This one truly is a fire, gets near gorse and it just explodes with the oils in the plants. So our future funding looks bright too. We're still continuing to get those early detection rapid response type outliers, both in Curry and Coos counties, and looking towards bigger dollars partners are getting for that fuels reduction and fire risk aspects of what this plant can do to the landscape. All right, the second group I'd like to highlight is the Rogue Aquatic Invasives Network. This group patterned itself off of the Willamette Aquatic Invasives Network, now known as the Wapato Revival, up in Beth and Grant's neck of the woods. The Rogue Aquatic Invasives Network just completed year 2 of our work on the Rogue, and it has been an exciting group to work with and lots of progress being made. The group has received Oregon State Weed Board funds and has also received Oregon Invasive Species Council money for some education outreach aspects of what the group is doing. The original scope of some of the work was to target our rafting community on the Rogue, really popular river to raft, especially the lower Rogue, the wild and scenic, was to educate our outfitters, our rafting guides and outfitters, how to ID some of our target aquatic species, and then to report those to us so we can get to them quickly. We also focused on training these outfitters in how to properly remove these aquatic weeds, the do's and don'ts of that type of work. Here's some just examples before and after photos. This is parrot feather, one of our targets for the Rogue Aquatic Invasives Network. It's on the left, now you see it. On the right, now you don't. Another, now you see it, now you don't. Again, parrot feather. The other species the group is working on is Ludwigia, yellow water primrose. This is one of our outfitters, Ouzel Rafting Outfitting Guide Company, that is down on the Rogue practically every week, like our other outfitters, starting Memorial Day through Labor Day. They're taking clients down the Rogue, and of course they know every bump, every aspect of that river system. So who better to recruit than these natural observers of the water and what's in the water? Here, Ouzel was out with us training about what the species look like, how to ID them, and then they literally dug in with several other outfitters that were out with us that day. We cleared a slough, probably took 2 to 3 hours of just loading boats up, and then we have a technique of leaving the plant material high and dry so it will desiccate and dry out. So this is the before photo. And then this is last year. Very little of that plant material came back in this slough. It was really encouraging for partners to see. We literally took 15 minutes, a little maintenance, finding a plant here and there. The vegetation you do see in the photo is Azolla and some other species, not our nasty invasives like the Ludwigia and parrot feather. That is what I had for the board today. Just a couple partner highlights, lots of great work happening down here, and I would be happy to take any questions. All right, passing the buck. let's head east.
Thank you, Carrie. How big were those fish?
Lots of dinners worth. Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll go to Central Oregon with Dan Sun. We are running a little over time. Just be conscious of your presentations as we move forward, please.
Yep. Can you guys see my presentation?
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay. Maybe I got to swap displays. How about now?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Sunny
Okay.
face.
Oh, okay. Let me see. How about now?
There, now we're cooking with gas.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. I'm gonna turn off my camera just to save the bandwidth. It's been a little choppy on my end, but now you see me, now you don't. So yeah, popping over to the central part of the state here, I'm gonna give some high level 30,000 foot overview of not nearly all the projects that we work on, but four I'm gonna highlight that I think are important to, yeah, give you an update on where things are at. So starting off here with in Crook County, this is our Peganum Harmala African rue. And it on my end, it looks like my graph is not coming through. Is that the case?
Yeah, not seeing the graphic.
Huh.
It's trying, but
Okay, interesting. Well, I'll just tell you what's on that graph anyway. I don't know why it's not coming up. It did before, but that's just a change in net acres of the African rue here in Crook County. This is one of two known locations in the state. Since 2019, we had a drop in population densities in between 2020 and 2022, about an 80% decrease. I mean, we're talking like just, numbers of plants, like 0.05 net acres. Then we had a resurgence to 0.35 net acres in 23 and up to 0.45 in 2024. And don't know why that occurred. I mean, we had more moisture in those years. And I mean, this is an area where the plants are conspicuous. They're hiding underneath sagebrush and off on on right-of-ways along Bear Creek in tall kochia and mustard. And so a lot could be missed. So one opportunity that's come from, I guess, that growth in plants that Crook County Weed Control, Crooked River Weed Management Area have been working on for a long time now, since like 1998, thanks to Oregon State Weed Board funds, is the future further engagement with Prineville District BLM. We're in the process of formalizing an agreement to expand ODA's role on that project, and through that engagement and state weed board funding, hoping to increase the footprint that we have over on the project area. We're typically looking, on the lower end of the plateau down in the valley. We want to expand out and see if any plants have moved out of this valley up onto the plateau. And one cool thing that we have planned for 2026 is engaging with this group. I'm pretty sure they're out of Deschutes County, Canines for Detection, where they're going to use dogs to help sniff out some of those conspicuous plants, because it's pretty hard to spot. So hopefully the dogs can help with that. Let's see. Moving over to Deschutes County, just gonna talk about our Horiolism project over there. So this is one that I came on to the program in 2021, and 2022 is my first year engaging with this. Went to basically what we thought was the epicenter, still is the epicenter of the Horiolism. We had one property. We're now up to 13 properties. We cover a lot more ground, a lot more survey acres, like up to 2,000 acres, but we have this thing pretty well honed in on 700 gross acres, over 13 properties. So even though the number of properties is going up, gross acres, we're starting to dial that together. And then all the while, except, we had a bump between 23 and 24 in net acres treated, we're going down in net acres. So I guess that's to highlight the importance of what we do, staying on a project, being persistent with our efforts, our engagement with our partners. Deschutes County vegetation manager Ben Han has been really great, helping get out on the ground on this project. Last year, Mitch was out for a little bit. He usually helps quite a bit, but he had a baby, and so we were a little bit short-staffed. But local, partners, we get together and we're getting stuff done. The pictures here depict, the prolific amount of seeds that this plant produces, and then here's another picture on the left of because of the engagement with Deschutes County and them now more eyes out on the ground, they found just off of one of the roads a small patch of Horiolisum. It's being taken care of. I mean, well on its way to eradication. So I'm feeling really good about how things are going on this listed species. Moving on. Talking about outreach, everybody's talked how important that is. We really upped our game on the outreach this past season in Deschutes County. I think I participated in the region, maybe 7, 8 or so outreach events, getting the invasive species wagon out there. One new thing we incorporated last year, thanks to Jordan keeping plants alive in our greenhouse in Salem, we brought over some live plant specimens of noxious weeds, specific to the partners that we're engaging with, the community members. So yellow floating heart, yellow flag iris, orange hawkweed, and through that and showing people what these plants look like in real life, we're getting more calls, not specifically on yellow floating heart, although our number of sites keeps going up. But it's more eyes out there, the better, and getting on this stuff sooner than later will help move towards eradication. The change in number of sites from 24 to 25 was thanks to my colleague Beth. She was coming through Deschutes County on her way back to the west side, and she just happened to be in the right light, right area at the right time, and noticed a pond that's just been going unnoticed for years, a small less than a half an acre pond, just absolutely inundated with yellow floating heart. So plan to move on that project and the others in the coming season. So sticking with yellow floating heart, I just wanted to highlight the prolific capabilities of yellow floating heart, and once again reiterate how important it is for our engagement with partners and to be in the region doing what we're doing. And this is an aerial photo, Google Earth photo from 2006. I'm gonna run through up to the present. I just happened to stumble upon these, but 2006, the yellow floating heart wasn't in this pond. Have no idea how it came into the pond. In 2011 was the first time we saw evidence of yellow floating heart. Still not being treated. 2012, nothing, but you see, I mean, there's quite a bit of change just in a season. 2014, even more. To my knowledge, there no treatment. Now, my predecessor, Mike Crumrine, in 2017, finally got on this project. I'm not sure how that came about, but got on it, started treating it in 2017. You could see, population densities decreased quite a bit. Not much change into 2018, but sometimes that's how this goes. Then there was a break in the staff, the current position that I have for the program. In 2019, it wasn't filled. My position wasn't filled until 2021. You see, there was nothing done on this until, well, I'm going to get to 2024, but here it is in 2022. It's basically back to, if not worse than it ever was. And I should note that center area in the picture that is clear of yellow floating heart, there would be, but there's a windmill that's creating ripples on the water and pushing all that stuff to the edges. So 2023, same thing just about. And then perfect timing for a before and after picture, June 2024, a month before I got on the project and did a treatment. And here's what it looks like from my vantage point. I mean, completely socked in with yellow floating heart. 3 months post-treatment is, you see here what we have. Staying on the pond and treating it. Here's what it looked like in May of 25, and then where we're at as of October 20th of 2025. There's still little plants hanging around here and there. We need watercraft to get out there. That's Mitch helping on the project, paddling me out. I mean, we're down to just spot treating plants. So I mean, it's amazing what a little bit of persistence and consistent efforts can do. And last but not least, moving south to this is another Oregon State Weed Board funded project. This is our Grizzly Mountain Dyers Woad. It's been funded since 24 and 25. Prior to the State Weed Board funded efforts, Klamath Falls Resource Area, BLM, and ODA have just been working on it. And pardon the pun, but that wasn't cutting the mustard. We were just barely able, I mean, I wouldn't even say able to keep all the roads clear, but that was the focus. This is a highly recreated area, a lot of traffic in and out, wildlife corridor, keeping the roads clean, because we're trying to really contain and prevent further spread of the southern impact from California, Northern California into Southern Oregon and north. And so staying on the roads was the main goal. Now, you know, through State Weed Board dollars, we're able to cover all the roads. It's an extensive amount of roads that has to be covered, and we're seeing tremendous effects from those treatments. Now, new in 2025, thanks to the diligent pre-season monitoring from Rob Banks, who I don't think is on the meeting, but kudos to Rob. He noticed some chlorotic and deformed looking Dyers Woods plants down there, thinking maybe it was just some residual herbicide effect on the plants. Closer examination, this center picture shows some spores. It's actually the native rust fungus, Puccinia flaspios, first detection in Oregon, and it's wreaking havoc down there. I hope this stuff is here to stay. And I mean, it's doing amazing things, as you can see from the picture on the right. Those plants in the front are gnarled, curled up, not going to produce seed, this is a highly prolific seed producing plant, 300 to 500 on average seeds per plant. Even the plants in the background there are affected to a certain degree. They're not as healthy and robust as they would be. So I'm really looking forward to you know, seeing what effects this fungus has on the project with our herbicide control in years to come. And with that, I thank you for your attention. This is a before and after picture from an herbicide treatment that was made by Klamath County Weed Control. I mean, that's an enormous amount of, it's what we're dealing with, of the Dyers Woad down there. And there's a before and after, and it's amazing, you know, what kind of impact we could have when we all work together. So thanks to everybody, and thanks to the partners for everything you do.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions for Dan before we move to the next region?
Yeah, I got one about that fungus. Is it exclusive to the Dyers Woad plant? The fungus among us?
You know, I would love to defer it to Ashley. I don't know if she knows more. I believe it is. I mean, it's a native rust fungus.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Does
Yes.
anybody have any other insights on that?
Carrie here. Yes, it's something that Mark Schwartzlander in Idaho researched with his lab, and it's approved there, was approved test case in California, and it's
gotcha.
it's just exclusive to Dyers Woad.
Cool. Sounds like a good deal.
So we'll move up to the northeast corner of the state with Shonda Hillstead. Some of you, this may be your first time getting to hear from Shonda, but Shonda is our new Northeast Oregon specialist coming in behind Mark Porter. Joined the team back in September, really hit the ground running, and I'll turn it over to Shonda for hers. Are you muted, Shonda?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's kind of echoey.
All right, can you guys, is it better now?
Yep.
No, it's still echoey. All right, bear with me here. I've got a couple devices and apparently one is not working on the mute. So I'm going to keep my camera off for bandwidth as well. So I in the Northeast region now. I cover Baker, Grant, Morrow, Umatilla, and Union counties in Wallowa. Mine will be pretty brief here to get us caught back up on time because I am relatively new. Hopefully, no. Okay, hopefully my bandwidth can keep up with slides here too. So I joined the ODA team back on October 1st. I've been pretty busy meeting with partners and learning everything in the region. And one of the big highlights for us was hosting the last Oregon State Weed Board meeting in Baker City back in October. So it was great to get to see everyone there and share our projects in the region. So for this season, I'm looking forward to learning more about my region. I plan to visit all sites of A-listed species within the region, including Horiolisum, Palmer amaranth, welted thistle, Turkish thistle, plumeless thistle, Ravenna grass, orange hawkweed, flowering rush, and squirrel snapweed. I also plan to assist partners with as many of their projects that they have, as well as A and B and T listed projects. Biocontrols are another big thing that are important to me. So both my predecessors, Mark Porter and Dan Sherritt, were very involved with biocontrol work. You guys might recognize Dan Sherritt in this picture. Dan's still an active volunteer with the Forest Service in our region, and he's been a great mentor over the years. So I am hoping to work with our ODA biocontrol entomologist, Ashley Toland, who you guys will hear from later. And we're hoping to get 2 new mites in Oregon this year, one for Russian thistle and one for whitetop. Here is a picture of whitetop in Northeast Oregon in the spring. So if you drive through a lot of the region in May, this is what you may find. So we are very excited about those mites. Russian thistle also does the same thing in the late season. Education and outreach is also really important to me. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. From Helen Keller, the more eyes and the more hands out there helping out, the better. So I want to help partners as much as I can at outreach events around the region. Some challenges that we have. So there's been a bunch of recent wildfires that happened in 2024 that a lot of partners are working on. Those wildfires are affecting our capacity with contractors and partners. And then the other big one is energy development. So B2H is starting construction that you may see around the region. And I just want you guys to know that the Oregon State Weed Board, everything that they do helps these energy development companies build those weed management plans. So as you see those construction scars going across the landscape, just know that what you do is valuable and it does make an impact on that landscape. And those management plans are developed based on Oregon State Weed Board regulations and laws, as well as local county laws. So partner projects and pictures from the region. Here's our Forest Service working on some river trips. Also on a Forest Service river trip in the Hells Canyon National Recreation Area. This was in Baker City, some drones on our Horiolisum project. Some more drones. Horiolisum and Japanese knotweed on the Umatilla River. The Horiolisum's in Baker City. Yellow flag iris and perennial pepperweed. And a group of partners working on tansy ragwort in the Umatilla County. And that's what I've got. I can take any questions.
Thank you, Shonda. If that old boy wants to sell that old truck, you let me know. Well, thanks again. With no questions for Shonda, we'll move to our final regional update down to the southeast corner and Bonnie Rasmussen.
Okay, can you guys see that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it actually works right. Hi everybody, good afternoon. I'll try to speed through this. Most of you know me. I've been with ODA about 27 years now, down here in the southeastern corner. I cover Harney Lake, Malheur, and I also get around a little more into some of the other counties, but that's my primary focus. I work with 3 BLM districts, 3 or 4 counties, a handful of CWMAs, couple forests. We play in about 17 million acres. Without my partners, we wouldn't be getting a whole lot done. So this is a list of a lot of the players in those areas, and what an amazing bunch of partners we have down here. Quick overview, southeastern Oregon doesn't have a lot of A-rated weeds, thank goodness. This kind of covers you. It's a quick and dirty outline of kind of where we're at. Most of you, if you were there last fall, saw a presentation about the Palmer Amaranth over in Malheur County. That's new, so it's definitely on the growth at this point. Horiolisum is down. The site in southeastern Oregon is located actually in Harney County, managed cooperatively with Harney County Weed Control. African Rue Project co-managed with Harney County is at static. Orange hawkweed is down. Scuro snapweed is still considered eradicated in southeastern, and we'll hope it continues to stay that way. Why is this not moving? Okay, quick on the Palmer Amaranth. There's 2 locations of it in Malheur County, estimated about 550 gross acres at the Skyline site, estimated about 7.5 gross acres at the Nissa site last summer, cooperatively with all the partners over there, and especially kudos to the Harney County Strategic Weed Attack Team. We pulled about 2.5 dump truck loads. That includes pickup loads as well in that mix of bagged Palmer Amaranth plants from those 2 sites that were disposed of at the landfill. Oregon State Weed Board grant has been submitted. You guys will be seeing that tomorrow from Malheur County to address this project cooperatively in 2026. The landowners have planted crops that are going to be a lot easier to manage the Palmer's Amaranth within them. And we're getting to the point where we're going to start our spring meetings, which is going to include reaching out to our Idaho partners and trying to do some damage control on, the possibilities of vectors moving that our way. Quick map overview. That is the prison in the upper center, just outside of Ontario. The green are not all the plants, but some plants, just to give an idea of the areas we were working in. And the orange and pink are treatment areas where we were actively, Harney County, ODA, and the farmer actively removing plants from onions, beans, primarily just onions and beans out there. That's the Nissa site. If anybody knows that area, it's just off of 26 before you get to Nissa. That was in beans last year. The dark farmland that is encompassed around with the red, it's primarily running the edge. In the yards now, the roadside, but not necessarily moved into the field. And it's debated whether it came off of fields or off of trucks that were headed over to dump grain and such over at those buildings up in your top right-hand corner. But extensively managed, the management of that roadside area and the fields is included in the grant proposal for 26. I can't thank these guys enough. This is a crew that I would take into war anywhere. This is out at the Skyline Farms location out by the prison, Harney County SWAT. rolled on this site multiple times with us. Frower Farms, Malheur County, Joel Felix, everyone on board. What a great effort from everyone. And super excited to see what we end up with out there this year with a better approach to crop management. Horary switching over to it. There is one site Mark Porter found in 21 up on Highway 395, just north of Burns. Last year, Harney County is managing this site, and there were a handful of plants, and they treated that whole wayside again. And I think Jim said there was about 10 plants in there. And so this dude is resilient, and without residual in that area, I think it's just sitting down there in that gravelly profile and popping up. So, but it is managed quite effectively with everyone from the county area keeping an eye on it. African root, you'll see the grant proposal from Harney County to again oversee this project. We're pretty static out there. We're pretty static out there at about 2 acres net. Same amount of project areas as we've had in the past. We've now moved into quite a bit of reclaiming, reseeding, trying to get the right combination in that difficult soil profile to bring on some competition. But that's an intense project, and kudos to Harney County for being engaged so strongly with that. Orange hawkweed, there were no plants found in those yards and Hines in 2025. Harney County has been overseeing that for us, and pretty excited to see 0 plant found in that for 25. Scaros, we had a couple sites show up through the years. One was over on Hart Mountain Road. The other was down at Three Forks. No plants were recovered in those areas in 25, and we haven't found or tripped over any others within the southeastern Oregon area, thank goodness. Moving, that's our A-rated weeds. We'd like to keep it that way. Moving into B and BTs, the kind of a quick overview of those. Spotted knapweed really is seeing a reduction with some intense focus in Lake and Harney counties. Oregon State Weed Board funds have been used extensively down in Lake County to address this. Leafy spurge, we're seeing the same thing, a reduction in it in Lake County. It's been pretty heavily managed in Malheur County and in the southern portion of it and the northern. And we really kind of feel like in some of those areas we're seeing a decrease. Amanda might argue that a little bit, but the bios are starting to work pretty good up in that Malheur County area too. You'll see a little grant proposal. I think that we'll see a question of whether those numbers have actually seen an increase post-fire or not, but it's being focused on pretty heavily to try to get ahead of any increase we've seen. Tansy ragwort, the only sites we've had are historical in Harney County, and we haven't found any in quite some time. Dyer's woad in Harney County, non-existent. Unfortunately, we've seen an increase in Malheur County. You will see a grant proposal addressing that a little later in our meeting. And we did post-fire. Lake County has seen finding an increase of Dyer's woad down in that area that everybody, the cooperators, are really jumping in and trying to get ahead of. Yellow star thistle down. The only sites we're actively working with is southern Malheur County and Lake County, southern Malheur. Those sites, we didn't find any in that Pascal area in the last several years. And so we're calling that down. There's a grant proposal from Lake to help address theirs coming towards you tomorrow. Diffuse knapweed, I don't really have good numbers on that. I'm going to call it static. The biocontrols are pretty established in the sites we have, and it's targeted if found outside of those areas pretty extensively. We're seeing an increase with MedSage still, basically because it's just a hard one with fire activities and things. The plants, you know, they seem to be resilient in those fire scars with long-lived seeds, and so we're staying focused on it. I'm just going to throw some pictures up here for you guys to kind of get an idea of the areas we're working in. It's pretty tough to work in my area like most of my counterparts, but someone has to do it. Left corner, Steens Mountain working cooperatively with the BLM on spotted knapweed. The right-hand corner, we're working down in southern Malheur County, Sage Creek area, Sucker Creek area on spotted knapweed, rush skeleton weed, and Cattle Valley, we've been working on a MedSage site down there that seems to be tenacious that we just keep going after, but having some good success with it. Pascal Reservoir, quite a few of you have with us for a while. Know we work in this project area. It's with the BLM down out of Vale, and we have not found yellow star thistle in that project area for about 3 years. And we still keep trying to find it, but 12,000 acre gross area. It's pretty crazy, but we're protecting the wild and scenic river country, and a high priority for all of us. Leslie Gulch, Sucker Creek area, rush skeleton weed, spotted knapweed, heavily focused. Rob has spent quite a bit of time down there. The Harney County SWAT team has joined us, and we've had some pretty successful runs in the fall down there, cleaning up and trying to protect some high priority areas for the BLM. Warner Wetlands, we continue to be a partner with the Lakeview BLM, working in this Warner Wetland area, and especially in the critical plant areas with them. They have a lot going on in that project area with partners and contractors, but we're still engaged strongly with them on a lot of different fronts, but definitely in the Warners. And that's a quick and dirty, guys. I tried to get us back on schedule. Does anybody have any questions?
This is Margaret. I don't have any questions, Bonnie, but I just want to say to all of you how uplifting this is. I just spent a couple days in Salem, and it's really depressing listening to people. You guys are out there spending our money wisely and getting results. I just love, and your enthusiasm, all of you, your enthusiasm is inspiring. Thank you for all you're doing out there.
Thank you, Margaret. These Oregon State Weed Board funds, I hope all of you understand, past and new members, that these funds are incredibly important to our partners, and our partners are such a huge part of everything we do. We're just a little bit of it, and so don't ever feel like these dollars don't hit the ground, because they do, and amazing things are done, and you know, amazing assets in agriculture and in, you know, range have been just really protected through the years with these dollars.
And Craig here, I would echo Margaret's message as well to all of you. Also was impressed, especially there, Bonnie, noticing the way that you indicated your successes or more work to be done with the red arrows, the green arrows, and static. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so it's nice to see in the reports that you all put together some elements of where you're at in the fight. And I think that kind of helps the rest of us when we're out there advocating. If we can say we're winning, but we have a new one that's shown up, for example, and, you know, a whole new fight is on.
Thanks to all the regional staff. Chair Pope, I didn't know if you wanted to honor the break at 3:05 or not, or power through this final presentation. We can probably get through everything still before 4 if you wanted to honor the break, or we could power through and then take it.
yeah, that last set of presentations is a lot. So let's go ahead and take 10 and come back and we'll get it all wrapped up for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and put us into recess until 4:03. We're going to come back, not 4:03, 3:13. Sorry. All right, 313. Are we ready to go?
I believe so. Next on the agenda is biocontrol update from Ashley Tolan. So if Ashley's ready, then we're ready.
Ready. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, well, first, hello everyone. My name is Ashley Toland. I'm taking over for Joel Price, who was the weed biocontrol entomologist for many years. There was a pretty big gap before they filled the position. I started in September. Joel left in February, so our biocontrol technician, Jordan Donaghy, she held down the fort for a long time. So some of this work that I'm talking about today was possible because she was here to do it. So big thank you to Jordan. And very quickly, I want to keep us on track, but I did want to just touch on what classical weed biocontrol is. I know many of you know this, but I think it's okay to have a reminder. So it is a method of weed control where natural enemies from a weed's native range are introduced into the exotic range to become self-sustaining control agents. It is safe, inexpensive, sustainable, and an effective means at reducing pests. It's also really great for areas that are inaccessible for other types of weed control. And something that I think is important to talk about when you're talking about all the amazing things that biocontrol can do is also the limitations that biocontrol has. This is not for A-rated weeds. It's not for eradications. This is a management technique. It can take a long time, so patience is key. It can take up to 10 to 20 years, and you need to have the area that you have these insects at remain untouched by other control methods while you're waiting for the insect populations to establish. And so just going to get into some of the accomplishments of 2025. So one of the major projects we worked on this year were biocontrol for knotweed, and we use knotweed psyllids. They are native to Japan and Korea, and these psyllids suck sap from the phloem cells of knotweed leaves and stems and can reduce plant and root biomass by 50%. There are 3 different biotypes, one that attacks Japanese knotweed, one that attacks giant knotweed, one that attacks bohemian or hybrid knotweed. Okay, so a little bit about knotweed psyllids in Oregon specifically. So they were first released in Oregon in 2020, and we are rearing all 3 strains of the different biotypes in our greenhouses. There have been difficulties nationwide getting these agents to establish. One of the issues we think is that they are highly predated upon in the fields. Interestingly, the only site in the country that is established is actually in Myrtle Creek, Oregon. So that's very exciting that we happen to be home to the one site in the entire country that is actually established. We don't actually know why it's only established in Myrtle Creek, Oregon, and not in other places. It's been released in areas with similar climates, so that's still something that people are investigating, but we're going to try and get as many sites established as possible. In 2025 alone, ODA released 27,000 knotweed psyllids, and right now, because it's still so new as a biocontrol agent, plant damage in the field is very minimal at this time, but in the photo here, you can see some of the characteristic damage from these psyllids. You get this twisting kind of pattern in the leaves, specifically in Japanese knotweed, they get a lot of the twisting. All right, another major project we worked on in 2025 was biocontrol for gorse with gorse thrips. So these thrips are native to Europe, and they puncture plant cells and suck up the contents. They target new growth and can reduce flowering. Small gorse bushes that were attacked were 25% smaller than healthy plants. And as you can tell from these photos, these guys are really, really tiny. The adults are only 1 to 2 millimeters long, and you can see the comparison to the penny here on the right side of my screen. And because of their tiny size, they are relatively slow to spread. And then a little bit specifically about the gorse thrip work in Oregon. So these thrips were released in 2020, like the knotweed psyllids. We are also maintaining a colony of the thrips in our greenhouses. This year, we were able to field collect and then re-release 550 thrips at different locations in Bandon, Oregon. And we also were able to successfully recover thrips at 9 different sites 3 in Bandon, 3 in Florence, and 3 in Lincoln City. And again, this is a relatively new biocontrol agent, 2020 being the first release. That's not that much time for a biocontrol agent. And the impact has not really quite been seen yet in the field, but that does not mean we won't see impacts soon. Another project we've been working on a lot in 2025 is the yellow star thistle root crown weevil. This little guy is native to Europe and Southwest Asia. Adults feed on and lay eggs in the leaves, and then the larvae mine down the leaf and feed into the root crown. In a lab setting, feeding could decrease plant size by 23%, and in the field, agents reduced seed fertility by 15%. In Oregon specifically, we began pre-release monitoring in 2023, and unfortunately, it's very difficult to rear these weevils in the lab. Many labs throughout the country are having a hard time rearing enough weevils for a successful release. We have been struggling with rearing as well. Our first rearing attempt was successful in 2024, but our second rearing attempt in 2025 was unsuccessful. This is partially due to the fact that yellow star thistle is actually very difficult to grow in a greenhouse. It is prone to a lot of pest issues. So we feel that our yellow star thistle in 2025 was not suitable enough to make ideal conditions for weevil rearing. And due to this difficulty in rearing, no releases have been made yet in Oregon. And then just to briefly go over some other accomplishments in 2025, most of these agents have been widespread for some time now, but we still redistribute them to other parts of the state that need them. So we worked with biocontrol agents and did releases on Dalmatian toadflax, field bindweed, purple loosestrife, Russian knapweed, and then we used several species of weevils on spotted knapweed and tansy ragwort. All right, so now going into our plans for 2026. We're going to be continuing a lot of the work from 2025 that I mentioned just now. So we'll be continuing to rear and release goresthorps and knotweed psyllids. This is probably going to be the last year of a major push for both of these agents. We usually go through cycles of 4 to 6 years of doing a heavy push for a new agent, and then we kind of let the agents do their own thing for a little bit, but we'll continue monitoring them. We will also continue with the rearing of yellow star thistle root crown weevils. We are hoping that the introductions of new weevils that we got from California last month will be able to improve our rearing success. And if we are not able to rear enough for release in 2026, I think that I'll be able to have someone from another state send us weevils so we could potentially do a release of these weevils in 2026. That is yet to be determined, but I think that we should hopefully be able to make that work out. And then we will continue with the redistribution of the established agents that I was speaking about earlier, like spotted knapweed weevils and purple loosestrife beetles, etc. Troy touched upon this a little bit earlier, but something that's exciting that we're planning on doing in 2026 is some Scotch broom biocontrol work. Like Troy mentioned, fire-driven disturbance in 2020 has resulted in extensive Scotch broom regeneration along the Highway 22 corridor, right between Mill City and Detroit, Oregon. So we are hoping to monitor and reestablish populations of the Scotch broom seed beetle and the Scotch broom seed weevil. Throughout most of the state in areas that have Scotch broom, these agents are already well established, but we are thinking it's very likely that the fires eliminated the local populations. So we would like to redistribute those and see if we can get to work on this huge infestation of Scotch broom. And then Shonda touched upon this a little bit earlier as well, but we are hoping to get white top mites for the first time ever in the state, which is very exciting. The first releases in the US were in Montana in 2019, and Montana has agreed to send us some this year. These mites are microscopic, as you can see from this photo, and they feed on developing plant tissue that induces bud galls, and the damage stunts plant growth and reduces seed production. We would hope to also keep a colony of these at ODA for further redistribution in later years. And after we do our first release of these mites, we will continue to monitor for establishment. And Shonda also touched upon this, but another exciting new agent that we're going to be getting for the first time in the state are the Russian thistle mites. These will be coming from California, and these will be among the first wave of releases in the entire country, which is very exciting. The mites attack the growing tips of the plant and it stunts its growth and prevents flowering. Just like the other mites, we'll likely be keeping a colony at our ODA greenhouses for further redistribution, and we will continue to monitor for these agents once we do our first release. And then we're going to be monitoring for some new agents in 2026, which is really exciting. So this is going to be pre-release monitoring for agents that have not yet been approved, but should be approved for release soon. And so that's going to be a weevil for biocontrol of garlic mustard, the oxeye daisy moth for oxeye daisy, a weevil for tree of heaven, and a seed feeding weevil for hound's tongue, and then a seed feeding weevil for dyer's woad. So it's going to be really exciting to have these new agents. Hopefully we'll be able to make releases in the next couple of years. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes these get held up at various stages of the approval process, but we're hoping to get them soon. I know that there's been a lot of people who've been excited about some of these agents. And then very quickly before I wrap up, there's actually been over 80 species of biocontrol agents released throughout Oregon's history, and all of those can be found on our website. So if you had any questions about other biocontrol agents, I would encourage you to go to our website, oda.direct/biocontrol, and you can search in our search function for either the weed common name or the biocontrol agent common name or scientific name. So it's a great resource if you had any questions about what we have released here in Oregon. And hopefully I got us back on track some, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Good stuff. Very fascinating.
Yeah, members of the board, and yeah, thanks, Ashley. What we call the SEBA project, the Yellow Star Thistle project, is an extremely difficult project to undertake. We were approached because of the long history of successful rearing projects that we've had in the biocontrol program over the years, and so we're very excited for that. But a really kind of noble cause there to take on a project by the biocontrol team that seems almost destined for failure, but based on a lot of the results that other folks get. But we are giving it everything we've got to see if we can't make something happen there. So appreciate the hard work from Ashley and Jordan on trying to move that forward with a relatively small pool of resources to support that project. Doing everything we can. So.
All right, Troy, would just take us right on into the risk assessments portion of our agenda.
Okay, do we still have a quorum?
Great question.
We have you.
Wes is still here.
Wes is here. I see Margaret. Need at least one more.
I'm here.
Chris is still here, and maybe
still here.
And Judge Joyce is still here. Look at us. So we have 3 different risk assessments for you. If I'm not mistaken, only one of them will come with a recommendation for listing, and that's the one we will start off with. So I'll turn it over to Bonnie Rasmussen for a water hemp update. You may recall after the Palmer amaranth listing, this species was kind of flagged for us as a very close relative for consideration as kind of an addendum assessment to the Palmer amaranth listing. So take it away, Bonnie.
Hey, those folks that were with us last fall, I gave an overview of water hemp that we would be coming to you with this spring. Amaranthus tuberculatus, and away we go. This plant is very, very similar to Palmer's amaranth. It is a weedy pigweed, just like Palmer's, and it is just as comes with a suite of problems as well. And so it is high on our priorities for listing. Also known rough fruit water hemp, tall water hemp. There's a host of common names. And there's even a combination or a combining of Amaranthus rubus and Amaranthus tuberculatus into just this one scientific name happening in the scientific world at this time. And again, it's in the Amaranth family. It's in the pigweeds. This is a male and female plant image. Very, very similar to what you saw was Palmer's amaranth. It's a summer annual broadleaf plant as well. Takes both the male and the female plant to have viable seed. Unfortunately, it also creates the same situation with the ability for cross-pollination and a lot of genetic variability, crossing weedy tendencies into a native plant. It's very similar in its appearances, smooth stem, a little bit of different shape to the leaves than Palmer has. And it tends to be quite a bit bushier than in the field than Palmer, but it definitely has the same tendency to be a lot larger than your crop and a lot more robust, and so it stands out once it reaches its maturity, mature height. Like Palmer's, with the genetic crossings, it's documented to be resistant to a very large host of herbicides, making it incredibly problematic in an agriculture setting. I did mention that it is native in the United States. However, crossing with other genetically changed plants has created some serious problems. It's not known at this time to occur in Oregon. Washington, this map shows it. I'm not sure if that's just because there's a native variety up there, but the weedy variety has not been identified at this point. They recently, 25, did a risk assessment and is listed. California, it's primarily in the Central Valley. They're showing in 25 that there was 14 records down there of it. Idaho is our main concern. It was first documented in 22. I'm able to pull a lot of information from our counterparts and Joel Felix's counterparts in Idaho. It's well established in the Magic and Treasure Valleys. And in 25, as I presented last fall, they did find a plant. One of our seed reps did in Parma, which is very close to the Oregon border. So that is a very concerning factor for us. There are some pretty significant impacts from water hemp. Like I said, it is a native to the U.S. However, in the recent years, what they've seen Midwest is it's become nearly impossible to eradicate it from the fields, from the agriculture settings, because of the genetic adaptations that's coming along that's making it resistant to a lot of the herbicides that are utilized in our agriculture fields. And now this weedy variety has also spread to, this part of the western side of the United States. A little note here, pigweeds are pretty good at what they do. A single female plant can absolutely produce an insane amount of seeds. Now, once again, you need a male and female to make those seeds viable, but as I've seen with Palmer, where one is, the other quickly follows or is already there. So your battle is getting ahead of this and then manning, if it once goes to seed, then you're dealing with a mess. That image was given to me by Clark Alder. He's with Betta Seed Company. He is the person who found the Parma plant in the onion field. This is an image out of Bruno of 360 acres of infested field. And what you see that's brown and green is all water hemlock, and that field's a bust. And this plant can grow under summer conditions with moisture at an incredible rate. You know, they're talking over 3 inches a day, quickly topping your crops and shading out things and dominating for resources. The conclusion with the risk assessment, like Palmer's, as you guys probably are expecting, is this is an extremely high risk to high dollar agriculture, and then even into our native wetland areas. And this plant is also fairly adaptable and tolerant for less moisture than Palmer's is. And so it may not be as robust, but it'll darn sure go ahead and complete its life cycle with the right combination of male and female plants present. Its biological traits alone make it, you know, a high risk for agriculture. The heavy use of herbicides and ag in the Midwest is being blamed for the evolution that's happened with these amaranth species, and this one is also showing documented resistance, just like Palmer's. Extremely competitive. We have seen Palmer's, and now in Idaho with water hemp in our sugar beets, onions, soybeans, corn. A nightmare scenario, easily spread through, and this is something that we need to talk about with our group meetings this spring. We have equipment, we have beet trucks, soil, all kinds of things moving between Idaho and Oregon. And if we're going to get ahead of either one of these, we're going to have to be engaged strongly with our partners. Amalgamated Sugar already is. Joel Felix and his counterparts are working closely together, but it's important for us to get ahead of this as much as we can. So in conclusion, it's been determined that this plant definitely meets classification for a Class A in Oregon. And of course, we utilize the two risk assessments process that you guys are familiar with. In both the adapted USDA APHIS PPQ risk assessment, it rated high and an A, and in our own ODA noxious weed rating system, it rated a 20, also placing it high into an A rating. This plant, I think the only way it could have actually rated higher was as if it had wind-borne seed or, you know, rhizominous, which it has a tap and root and such, but it ranked really high. And part of that is it's a definite threat to agriculture. And Malheur County, bless your hearts, you are right on the line with the battle. And I think the State Weed Board and all of us are at your back. So anyway, that's what I got. Questions?
Good job, Bonnie. So yeah, I'm a little spooked by that one, especially to show a picture of 360 acres. I'd be devastated with that. Go ahead, Troy.
Let me go last. Just a comment for the board. So I'll hold till last. I think Chris has her hand up now.
I do. Yeah. Thanks, Troy. Thank you, Bonnie, for all that information. That was a good refresher after a couple months since we hadn't heard about it. But just correct me if I was wrong or if I missed it. You did say Washington has it listed, and maybe I missed it. Did California have it listed as well, or is it because it's established there in the Central Valley, they have not listed it?
I'm actually not sure, to be honest with you, if they have it listed or not. I was just looking at a presence or non-presence in California.
Okay. I'll see if I can look real quick.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Well, I'll race you to it.
While you guys are doing that, just a comment to the board and I mean, to the audience in general, I guess. So this would be another instance following Palmer Amaranth and just a few others where we propose listing a species that is native to the United States. It's something that historically we have shied away from as much as humanly possible. But obviously there are certain instances where it may warrant it. And so I think in these cases, I just want to make the point that it's going to be very important for us as a department, as a program, to be communicating beyond our borders with surrounding states, especially those where it may not be managed at all because of its native status. And if the board or anybody on this call has opportunities to engage with other folks, regionally or outside of the state, this is one of those species, I think, where some conversations need to be had, because given its propensity for invasiveness and the difficulty in control, as Bonnie mentioned with Palmer's, if we're not going to get help from our neighbors, we're slowing the bleeding a little bit, but eventually we will get overrun by things like this. So it's just one of those interesting things. As times change, as plants evolve, as conditions change, we think about climate change. We're starting to now have these conversations about native plants that are no longer behaving in the way that they used to. And we're starting to cross this bridge now where we're considering native species as invasive. So I just don't want the board to take these kind of listings lightly, because it's somewhat uncharted territory for us that we continue to kind of tiptoe our way into. So that's all I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. May I add a question, Troy?
Certainly.
Go ahead.
Hey, I'm curious, and I hope I didn't miss it, but what the listing status is in Idaho, and what the potential from ISDA's partnership is. I know that one of the things I understand, or I believe that if I understand it correctly, in Idaho, the plant has to be petitioned by people from outside the State Department to get listed. And if that was considered by Amalgamated Sugar and other partners as an option to move forward.
It is not listed in Idaho. And I believe I have not had a conversation with ISDA as to why not. The ISDA was petitioned in 24 to add both water hemp and Palmer amaranths to the state noxious weed list by Amalgamated Sugar. Oh, well, there was experts and organizations that included Amalgamated Sugar, and it has not at this point been listed, and I don't know where the status is on that. I imagine there's a little bit of concern with the actual amount present, especially the Palmers in Idaho, and so this is an important conversation we need to be having with our Idaho partners as well, because without their cooperation and Amalgamated Sugar and our growers that are moving equipment back and forth and resources back and forth and rail stations where it's become present, this is going to be an uphill battle in the best situation, but without working hand in hand with Idaho, it's going to prove incredibly difficult to hold the line with it.
Just to follow up, would this be an opportunity for the board to write a letter to the Department of Ag in Idaho and express our concern and hope for a partnership going into the future?
Not sure who you're directing your question at, but I would say it's definitely an opportunity for engagement on that front. And at the very least, as far as I know, that petition is just still pending. I don't know that there has been a ruling on it. I do know that the State Department of Ag in Idaho shares the two flyers that Joel Felix had put together on their invasive plant ID guide. So there seems to be some recognition of its invasiveness at least, but I don't know that they have issued a final determination on the petition at this point, which is why my hand was up also. So take it down. So yes, there may be an opportunity here at least to request an update on the status of the petition, and then depending on the answer to that, maybe opportunities for more follow-up.
Grace?
Yeah, I know Bonnie hates when I say things like this, but gosh, that looks really familiar for some reason. But
Okay,
but
Dan Sherritt, quit.
yeah. But something that's really interesting that I was thinking as she was presenting with this being a native plant is, you know, that is one of the holdups for some of our treatments on the BLM stuff, is usually even with our, you know, some of the lifts of our injunctions, you know, one of the things is if we don't have a lot of leeway to control native plants still. And so that it's a little bit scary when we have these type of ones that are coming in are super invasive. So I appreciate you bringing it up, and I will definitely be looking into this being kind of one of those weird things where it is invasive and cause economic harm, but it's also native, and how, you know, we can be ready to deal with something like that on our land.
Thanks,
'Cause I
Grace. And
know-
just for
yeah,
anybody
and we-
wondering,
yeah.
its native range extends from southern Canada above the Dakotas, kind of down through that belt and into Texas. That's kind of its native band. So although it's native to the U.S., Oregon is well outside of its native range.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for that clarification on that, because I did come in a little bit late to Bonnie's presentation, but it is one of those that's looking oddly familiar, and I'm hoping it's just because it's a pigweed.
Chris, you still want to go? Still have a question?
Did one, so I mute myself. Two, I know we're close to the 4 o'clock hour here, so I'll keep this short, but just kind of piggybacking on Mark's comment about opportunity to petition to Idaho Department of Agriculture. As the Western Plant Board president, switch hats here for a second, I would maybe suggest as a strategy that the weed board in Oregon connect with the weed control board in Washington. We're partner states. We both either are interested in listing it or have already listed it. So if there's collaboration there, and then working through the plant board to appeal to the Idaho Department of Agriculture using our existing regulatory framework and partnership to initiate conversations of concerns and how to go about that, that may be an effective strategy because there's always power in numbers.
So my question is, can we set a date certain that we would make this listing to give ourselves some time to communicate and collaborate with with Idaho and anyone else, California, for example, so that we can align with their interest or their scoring?
We could, in the sense that you know, if you could, the board could vote to recommend a listing today, and then that doesn't go into actual code until Tristan and I initiate the actual rulemaking process, and we can do that at any time.
Okay.
So we can hold off for however long we need to on the rulemaking side of things, for some of that stuff to happen, while the board could still give a recommendation if you choose today to list or not list. Because it's just a recommendation.
Yep. All right, board members, you've had a lot of facts thrown at you here. Are you ready to make a recommendation?
This is Margaret, Mr. Chairman. I certainly think we need to address this, and if the best way to do that, of course, is to list it, I think we might need to take a step in that direction. I don't want to, Chris, I think the suggestion of working with Washington is a good idea, but I don't want Idaho to think that we're ganging up against them. I want it to be a collaborative thing.
Well, the idea isn't we're ganging up. The idea is that we're
Right.
joining forces with a
Right.
state with similar agricultural interests to
Mhm.
articulate our concerns that we'd like to talk to Idaho about control options on their end because we recognize they're not moving the dial over there for whatever the reason is. I think when I had gingerly approached this topic with my counterpart in Idaho before, she was rather frank to just say they just don't have the resources, and that is in part um, why they're not addressing the issue. And because I think, as someone else mentioned, it is spreading over there, but it may just be on our side. We need to get creative with how to actually implement a regulatory framework on the ground for controlling this beyond sending Bonnie and her SWAT team partners out there to pull this thing by hand, which I'll be honest, at least in my experience, that's a new approach. We typically have not done that when it comes to controlling weeds by putting growers under cooperative agreements and making them do things. But maybe that's the direction we actually have to start going with, which would be a bigger lift for the department to navigate how to do that in what we hope would be a cooperative relationship with these impacted growers.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
There is a very strong movement from, the petitioners in Idaho right now, the partners, Amalgamated Sugar, talking about Palmer's. We're actually behind the ball slightly, where we were with Palmer's and with Water Hemp, because the partners already saw the problem ahead of time. The partners being our academia, Mount Hare Field Station, Joel Felix, his partners in Idaho. They recognized it, and Amalgamated Sugar's been doing education outreach with landowners and growers, because this plan isn't manageable. Growers, you folks got to see that a little bit, that went out on the field. So they're very worried about being able to control these weedy amaranth species in the high-end agriculture in Idaho. And we watched, Joel Felix and I monitor pretty closely a Palmer site, and I'm linking the two because they're very similar, that they ended up hand roguing in Idaho because it looked like that picture, and they had sugar beets underneath it. And it's $500+ an acre for them to come in and to hand manage this type of plant in the field. And so they don't want to get there. But our partners are ahead of us. I think it's pretty easy to step in sync with them, and even touch base with them and say, okay, how can we be helpful here? It looks like you're already headed that way, but how can we help you get it there further, quicker?
I think
Go
the
ahead, Fred.
important distinction in this might be we've got our on the ground partners, our landowner partners who are on board. It's our regulatory partners, that may not quite be on the same page, and maybe I like the word join forces rather than team up on, or gang up on, and maybe there would be opportunities that would arise as some sort of tri-state effort, that would allow for, maybe there's funding opportunities out there that could be leveraged with a situation like that versus a single state trying to, manifest a program on their own. So that's all. I see Dan with his hand up now too.
So, with respect to Amalgamated, your board members are in both Malheur County and in Idaho counties on that Amalgamated Sugar Board, and they're big time beet raisers here in Malheur County. So that might be another way to look at it.
And they've been great. Like, it's been interesting to see Amalgamated Sugar's effort as a private corporation to make the kind of education and outreach efforts they've been making to to the people who bring beets to them for processing. So it's been great to have them on board, and I think a lot of opportunities with that partnership.
Margaret.
Then I would move to recommend that we list Palmer Amaranth.
I'll second it.
Wait, sorry. You're actually looking at water hemp,
Water
not,
hemp.
not Palmer.
Oh. All right. I would change, I would change how my time to water hemp then.
No, I'd
Oh, I
still
guess-
second it.
Good.
All right, we have a motion and a second to make a recommendation for listing. And is there further discussion?
Chair
I
Pope,
have,
members. Oh, sorry.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, just want to ensure if we're going to do some sort of delayed rollout on the rulemaking initiation, if the board had any request as part of this motion to recommend that we come back with any sort of report or status update before we move forward with that rulemaking. I just wanted to make sure what the expectation and action item was in relation to what happens between now and when we initiate that rulemaking. What would the board like to see before we do that?
Well,
Margaret, I'll let you jump in.
Okay, well, I mean, I think it would be advisable for us to kind of coordinate with our partners in Washington and maybe California and Idaho to kind of test the water. And would that well, you said the Idaho folks, it's more of a funding issue rather than a will issue. Is that correct?
That was kind of the impression, but she didn't give me too much detail.
Yeah.
So we definitely would need more discussion on this. It was kind of a side conversation at a different meeting.
Thank you.
As a former Idahoan, Idahoans are not too keen on any sort of regulation of any kind either. So there may be some uphill sledding just in that general regard. And just for a point of order on this, we may not be able to provide much more than just a status update to the board that, hey, we've talked to these folks, we got a lot more talking to do. There may not be a whole lot of resolution in between now and then, but we can certainly commit to making those connections, initiating those conversations, and at least providing a status update on those relationships that either are or are not being built, and have discussion.
That sounds great.
This is Wes Davies. So my question is, what's the precedent for listing a species that doesn't actually have a site in the state?
Prevention.
It's been done before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can discuss it. That's the system we have. Is if something were to get established and not be listed, then you have however much turnaround time you have to bring that back to the board again, get another vote, get a rule change in place, and then formulate a response. In the case of water hemp and Palmer Amaranth being such prolific seed producers and the type of resources that they threaten, that could potentially have some pretty huge, impacts.
Okay. Thank you. So my next question is, we got water hemp and Palmer's Amaranth. How many other pigweed species should we be looking at that are close relatives?
A fair question. We'll look at any of them that anyone wants to propose for a risk assessment. I mean, we have a protocol to evaluate them and properly classify them and score them as well. And so if there are concerns out there on pigweeds or any other species, a simple request for a risk assessment to the department is
So I guess that question I guess that question is pointed at Bonnie, and sorry, Troy, I'm trying to be careful with time. That's all. No, I don't mean impatience in my voice. It's just more trying to be
No.
sensitive with time.
No, it's
Bonnie,
good.
is there a second or is there a third or a fourth pigweed species that should be on the radar that's just like these two that we're dealing with?
You know, at this point, and one of my statements to my growers and people looking for these two weedy amaranth species is you can tell when you have Palmer's and water hemp because you sprayed your field and everything died but it, including your other pigweed. And red root has shown some resistance to some of the herbicides, but at this point, and Pal Amaranth has showed some resistance in the ALS resistance. I'm not positive, but at this point with my research, these are the only two species that are coming at us that are actually showing absolute resistance to 7 different types. You know, there is confirmed resistance of some herbicides with red root, with smooth, with Powell, with spiny amaranth, with livid amaranth. Now, are they going to genetically cross with these other pigweed species like water hemp has done to create this resistance? You're going to have to talk to the professionals about that because I that's beyond my pay grade and that kind of research. But so far at this point, these are the only 2 species within this amaranth family that have shown this extreme of resistance to herbicides. Some of those definitely are showing resistance to group 2 and group 9. And even, red root is resistant to basically 4 types at this point. So is red root going to get there? I don't have an answer for that. I'm not a geneticist, but it is something to consider with this whole amaranth family. So.
And Wes,
Thank you
Mark,
for
I want to jump in front of you, Mark, real quick. Sorry, but just some context, Wes. As a department, unless it was a really extreme case, we don't drive the assessments or the listings, right? We try to be responsive to the folks that we serve. And in the case of Palmer Amaranth, once it was detected, the board received an extreme outpouring from industry, from constituents in the areas and from the industries that would be affected, requesting the evaluation and potential listing. Red root pigweed and a lot of the other ones have been around for decades, and we have not received those types of requests or those types of response from the people who would be affected from them. And so we haven't went down that road. This was very much a response to the concerns of the constituents and of the agricultural producers who might be affected. And we just haven't seen that sort of outcry in relation to the other pigweeds. If we did, we would respond in kind the same way.
Well, and part of that reasoning is, for example, red root, it's genetically different. It does not require a separate male and female plant. These plants that are genetically diverse like this are the ones that seem to be crossing, and variants are becoming all resistant to many herbicides. And so part of the science behind it is specifically the amaranth, the Palmers and the water hemp are the ones that are so genetically similar that they're the ones that are outcrossing and leading to this genetic diversity that's causing these resistant genes to happen. And that's why the red root and the smooth and even the PAL has never hit the radar screen because they're not capable at this point of crossing like that.
So thank you for that. And that's an interesting observation that those variants that have female and male are the ones that seem to have these traits. So the herbicide resistant traits. Interesting observation. So anyway, I'm in favor of the motion. And then as far as a recommendation to communicate with our neighboring states as part of the listing or part of the regulatory process, I would be in favor of others wordsmithing how that should go. I think it's appropriate to specifically reach out to Washington and Idaho on these two species and get a response. So I don't know how to wordsmith that, but I'm in favor.
Thanks, Wes, and I appreciate the due diligence. Please continue with that type of discourse. That's what we're looking for here. I've jumped into front of a couple people here. Chair Pope, if you want to hear their comments before you vote.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Three very quick things. One, in my research for Palmer's Amaranth at its listing, the experts turned me towards identification guides from the Midwest, and they only list about 8 species as really problematic, weedy. They're all weedy, but these two, as Bonnie said aptly, are very, very much more problematic due to the resistance and genetic diversity. Wallowa County had pretty much, not herbarium verified, but Joel Felix identified a plant of water hemp 2 years ago from a mustard field north of Enterprise. So we very likely have it here already. And then we do have multiple A-listers on our weed list are not present in the state yet. If we deem their presence to be imminent and their risk to be high, we can list them just fine. Thank you. Good questions, Wes. Appreciate it.
Go ahead. Jump in.
Oh, I just want to get a clear motion and board vote.
I'm glad you asked for that. So the motion was to make a recommendation to list with the caveat that we would continue to have dialogue with neighboring states on their listing and how we can collaborate.
I second that motion.
All right, that's it for comments. That was a restatement of the motion. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion. Dang it. Motion passes, sorry. So Troy, what do you want to do?
Well, in regards to that, we will do our due diligence to make those connections. We'll bring an update back to the board prior to initiating any rulemaking, without any schedules of any special meetings. That wouldn't be until the December board meeting. So depending on how those conversations go and what we find out, there may be a request at some point in the summer for a short special business meeting of the board. We can, I'll keep in contact with you on that, Chair, and we can decide on a path forward there. I would defer to the board here, but before doing that, we want to present these to you because these were requested by land managers across the state, these risk assessments. But Beth and Grant confirmed to me they will not come with a recommendation for listing at this time. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that was
correct.
that's what we arrived at jointly. Yeah.
In light of that, with no more required board action, we probably could find some time tomorrow to squeeze these in if you want to bump these to tomorrow's agenda. Otherwise, we could power through them. I don't know if there's any public
Mine is
meeting
short.
laws.
Mine is super short. It's 5 slides. You want to get it done today?
No, this is up to the board members. So I just need to poll the board members here to determine whether or not they're fine with 2 more presentations beyond the agenda finish time. So any board members who object to putting these last 2 items in before we finish? All right, I don't hear anybody objecting, so let's go.
Okay,
power
copy
through.
that. Here we go. Okay, so I got a request for risk assessment to be conducted on something called sessile fruit arrowhead by Jacob Rose from CLR, who I believe is on this call. He and his team found this plant near William Finley Wildlife Refuge on the Willamette River a couple years ago. It was growing near a patch of Wapato, Sagittaria latifolia, which is a native plant here to the region. Sagittaria rigida, or arrowhead, sessile fruit arrowhead, is also native to the United States and North America, but it only grows in, let's see if I can pull up the map here, the Midwest, the Northeast, and parts of the South, or Appalachia, where it is interestingly enough, a plant of